to the Rancher's Kid podcast. I am Young Goob, the God. On today's episode, we're going to be getting to know me. This is the introduction to the Rancher's Kid, or this Rancher's Kid, so to speak. Like I said, on this episode, we're going to get to kind of find out what Young Goob the God, who Young Goob the God is. What is the Ranches, a cover Ranches, this neighborhood that he loves and he claimed hard everywhere he go, everywhere he's been since he's been. And what is this podcast going to be about? What content are we going to cover? And what can you expect in the episodes? All this and a little bit more on today's episode of the Rancher's Kid Podcast. Alright, so I decided to do this episode out on the patio. In the first episode, I felt like I was just telling the camera stuff. Then I had tone on and I had a conversation, which is, it felt good, it was more natural. Then I had my dog Ann on, also felt very natural. But I know I can't have somebody on every episode. I can't expect to get people in this thing just because I got some time. So I decided that I needed to give the people a little bit of insight of who is Young Goob the God, or who is Goob, the person that is in your face or in your ear right now. I'm going to kind of treat this thing kind of like I do every interview that I've been on since I was in high school looking for jobs, and I'm going to just give you the whole rundown. All right, let's start like this. I was born to James and Stephanie Bevel in 1979. Also known or better known as Bubba and Stanker. North Miami Osteopathic Hospital, something like that, you know what I'm saying? Right off the 836 in North Miami Beach. Immediately, we in Hollywood. Their first crib was in Hollywood off Hood Street. From there, because my old boy was a vet, they were able to purchase a home in the neighborhood known as Carver Ranches. All right? I'm going to get a little bit more into what Carver Ranches is in a little while. But in this house with my father and my mother, as well as my sister, as well I was raised, my sister Patrice, better known as Tracy. Shout out to Tracy. Growing up in that household was kind of wild. I even thought about what I was going to say earlier, but who knows what comes out once you get in this thing. But growing up in my house was not wild at all. I say kind of wild, but not wild at all. It was very stable. My mother was an educator. My father was a truck driver. Made sure that I had everything that I needed. I can't say that there was any day that I needed something that I did not have it. Most of the stuff that I wanted, I got that as well. I don't have the story of coming up without. I can't tell y'all that I came up without. You know what I'm saying? That I came up with a whole bunch. By no stretch of the imagination, but without, can't say that. So Bubba and Stanker raised me, you know what I'm saying? They gave me everything I needed, but they were not alone. They were not alone, you know what I'm saying? My mother is one of 7 sisters in this neighborhood for the most part, and they all helped groom us. My grandma was there. My granddaddy was there. We established roots in this neighborhood. It allowed us to grow legacy in this neighborhood. That raised me. That is the reason that this is called the Rancher's Kid Podcast in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So moving back to my childhood, try not to ramble. Grew up in the early 80s, coming up in the early 80s. I vividly remember everything as seeming orange and green. I'm from the time where you had to turn the knob with a pair of pliers on the TV. You know what I'm saying? Before the remote, before streaming, before 4K television, I was looking at a box 13 inches color, you know what I'm saying? But only by 13 inches and getting it in every night. You know what I'm saying? I'm an 80s kid. I was raised in the 80s. That culture influenced my childhood like no other. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get into a lot of the details of it. But just a little background, my mother was heavily in the church. So, of course, we were heavily in the church. I was on the usher board. I might have been like the usher board captain I was the secretary for the School of Wisdom, a Sunday school. I was writing and reporting minutes. You know what I'm saying? I've had a very diverse background, and at the same time, I'm in this little neighborhood, Carver Ranches, growing up almost in a bipolar world. A world where there's a hard working group of people raising their kids to be the best that they can be. But there's also the 80s going on. Like, we're not unaffected by Reaganomics. We here for all of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? We were not sovereign, or that ain't even the right word. We were not, you know what I'm saying, given a pass on that shit. We dealt with it too. So as a result, it was a bipolar world. It was a definite group of people who was hard working trying to get it, but there was another world of people who didn't have it, had to go by other means to get it. So that bipolar of those two sides of the world is what allowed me to see things from both perspectives that I respect and appreciate now. So, so back to the 80s. Growing up, elementary school, Carver Ranches, either I don't even know if there was either. Back then, you had to be an athlete. You had to be the fastest person around. You had to be able to catch. You had to be able to throw. You had to be able to do everything that was necessary to win a football game, or to win a game of Killer Man, or to win a game of whatever we was playing at that time. You know what I'm saying? I was raised in a very competitive environment of physicality, where you had to prove it or you was going to be in the house, boy, sitting on the side wondering. You weren't even going to be wondering. You knew why you won in the game, why you won, you know what I'm saying? Won a part of the action. And I felt like I had to be a part of the action. I had no choice but to be a part of the action. I've been running plays, practicing and training. I was going to get to that later. But I've been running plays, practicing and training since I was 6 years old. Like, that was in the backyard, not for the organized team. I was running 44 dive with James and Donnell across the street in the backyard, getting ready to play some people down the street. 6, 7 years old, organized games. This was going on. This was like 7-on-7, but we had 5 people in the street. We get it down. You know what I'm saying? You had to be somebody. I used to be giggly, laughy Jamie at first, but the young boy grew up. So the 80s raised me. The 80s groomed me. The Cosbys, you know what I'm saying? All that good stuff. Going to church. We're going to talk about those stories. I'm going to have my sister on, and we're going to talk about Triumph Church while I hold a glass of Ray. So, childhood, 80s, family orientated. Like I said, 7 aunts, pretty much in the neighborhood. Cousins flooded. I'm growing up with nothing but people who I know around me. My neighborhood is not the common neighborhood. It is a village / neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Your people know my people, because they people was people, and it was, you know what I'm saying? You got to move carefully. That's why I never had no lady from the ranches. Never. Too close to call on any of that stuff. So, moving on. Miramar Elementary for elementary school. The biggest thing everybody know, if you went to this and if you listening to this, and you was around in the 80s, then you know that Coach Robinson, Coach Johnny Robinson, set it off for field day for us every year. Somebody is gonna have to comment, hit me in the DMs, tell me you want to come on and talk about field day. I can't be the only person who got, or rest in peace to the God Johnny Robinson. I can't be the only person who want to talk about field day from the 80s. I'm talking about, I told my knee up. I found out what rehab and physical therapy was, because I wanted to impress and do people, really. I wanted to do people and get that trophy. We're going to have a part about the trophy. Moving on to middle school. Middle school is when the beginning of young Goob the God was being, let's say, conceived. The actual action of, look at this, the actual action of conceiving this person, this being that you see today. The mentality that is I. In middle school, I found out that I had a special ability because I had been groomed in these streets. When you leave those streets and go to other people's streets, you have some sort of advantage because they haven't been tried and tested in the manner that you have. Their ability to perform under certain situations aren't the same as yours. Their ability to perform, period, aren't the same as yours and your peers. You looking at people who you see as peers, who you trying to catch and trying to supersede, and then you go to these other people, you're like, man, we got something cooking over here. So the beginning of Young Goob the God started very much in a physical nature. It was because I was taller, I was more muscular, I was bigger than most of the other kids. I was more athletic. I was more willing to be physically dominant than a lot of other people in that form, in the physical, in the competitive form. That I found a gift, and I found a certain level of confidence that allowed me to exhibit other attributes that I had, that I found later as a result of your athleticism being removed from you. But the conception, definitely middle school. Shout out to Pines Middle School. Shout out to everybody from Pines Middle School who was there in the early 90s when hip hop was, when it was doing something to you. You know what I'm saying? It was 91, it was 92, it was 93. It was doing something to you. It was 94. It was helping conceive Young Goob the God. It was getting up in them things, getting up. That Cass was getting up in them. That Woo was getting up in them. You know what I'm saying? That Scarface was getting up in him. All that was getting up in him. And he was like, yeah, man. That Pac was getting up in him. That Far Side was get up in him. You know what I'm saying? Help develop what we got going on. The conception, it's what you do to make something happen. You know what I'm saying? This was all of the ingredients, my parents, my neighborhood, hip hop, athletics. These are all of the things that at this point that was the ingredients that's just cooking the Goob, cooking the Goob. Cooking the Goob. You know what I'm saying? So by the time I got to 8th grade, it was already on. Goob wasn't official yet, but that thing was ready to be birthed. You know what I'm saying? It took form. It was on, but I left 8th grade feeling like King Dingaling in this thing, boy. Ain't touched nothing but felt like King Dingaling. But you grow. You come upon new things and you start to see that, you thought you knew, you thought you had something, but you gotta go put it in you gotta put it in bigger waters. Every time you adjust the pond. Elementary was a little pond, you can go to middle school, it's a bigger pond. Go to high school, now we're in a bigger pond. In high school, what year did I jump in high school? 94? I was 15 when I went, so I had to be 94. So 94, I jump out, and it's young. It's just like you got to make a name for yourself. First of all, I go to a school that it's only one bus that's taking us there. Now, every other school, there was multiple buses. Elementary school might have been 3. They split up the hood. We're gonna have people from the hood. Currently, West Park, on some of the people who are influencing the neighborhood to help move us to the next generation. Some of my generation help move to the next generation, get them on this thing, help kind of paint a picture for everybody what this thing, the ranches is, all these ranches kids. But only one bus of us went to Nova, as if I recall. You know what I'm saying? Only one bus of us. And because we were always split up, I was on the bus with people who I had never been on the bus with before. You know what I'm saying? With them bus rides. Them bus rides. I'm gonna flip back real quick just because I want to talk about them bus rides. I rode the bus till ninth grade. Late ninth grade, I got a whip because I was 16, had a car, AMC. But from elementary school through ninth grade, I rode the bus. And in elementary school, those were the days. And you knew who you were then. Gals were gals and men were men. Dog. Boy, if he was on this side, he was on this side. Either he was in the back or you was in the front. Boy, you better pick it. You better find out who he is because it's going down. Real quick, I'm going to jump off and I'm going to come back. I'm going to jump back to high school. Rode the bus, elementary school. I lived down the street from the bus stop on 19th Street. The bus stop was at the mayor, who later became the mayor, wasn't the mayor then, of West Park. It was at his house, in front of his house. We playing Killer Man in the street in the morning. We get dropped in the afternoon. There was a lady named Miss Hill. Now, she was a caretaker. She was a caretaker of the ranches. She took care of ranches' kids. This was a wonderful lady. Wonderful, most caring lady you will ever meet on this planet as far as my perspective is known. You know what I'm saying? Took me home in her blue van, or took me to my grandma's house, or took me to the pit. The pit. Pretty much, wherever I needed to go after school took me there. You know what I'm saying? We're going to find somebody who used to ride. If you used to ride home with Miss Hill, and you listening to this pod, or you know somebody, shout out to the Queen, Miss Hill. So, we used to come home, and Miss Hill, they used to call her Hillbilly, because she used to wear kind of like an overalls. We was country. They was country. Carver Ranches was full of country people, and she was still country. So on the way home, let me see if I don't rock the mic too much. I hope y'all can hear that. They used to hit this on the bus. Whole bus rocking. Then it come on. Hillbilly. 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 I'm talking about the whole bus rocking. Hillbilly. And who is finna go get in the truck with Hillbilly? Miss Hill? Me. Now, most of the days, I'm talking about, it'd be spurts where it'd be 4 days out of the 5, we come home. Hillbilly, lighting it up. Her grandchildren on the bus, they just, you know what I'm saying? I'm on the bus, I'm like, I can't do the chant with them, but that thing funkin'. Hillbilly. Hillbilly. You know what I'm saying? It was just a vibe, and it wasn't necessarily exclusively to make fun of her, because they was trying to make fun of her, but it was just a chant that I came to find out that that's what you do when you trying to create a vibe. So it was just something that we'll touch on the Hillbilly days, the bus ride, really, as much as anything. All right. So like I say, one bus going to Nova. At Nova, I'm flooded by Lauderdale niggas. It's just a whole nother world. I'm from Carver Ranches. You know what I'm saying? I was raised at Lauderdale niggas, the greenest niggas in the world. And I got evidence because they loosen their tags, so when they speakers beat, it's just bang, 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 which is the worst sound in the world. So that's all I needed. Loud music with shaky tags, you purposely doing stuff, wearing bright colors, and all of my OGs telling me, nah, dog. All we heard was gate ass niggas from Lauderdale. And being from Carver Ranches, this 1 square mile neighborhood at the time, you know, you think that's the whole world. So you believe what you hear. But like everything else, you have to learn otherwise. You have to go see for yourself and see that, nah, man, this ain't the case. That's what you ran into. I ran into some of that as well, but I just ain't want to go ahead and label the whole deal as being gator and green. You know what I'm saying? I met too many good dudes at Lauderdale who throw them L's up. I even throw the L up. Nah, I ain't from Lauderdale. But at Nova, that is where Goob was birth. That's why I found out that I could transport my talents even further. This physical specimen that I had was conceiving, that was gestating in middle school, finally gave birth in high school and was still the same thing that was brewing before, even after it was exposed to the universe, so to speak. So with that, a whole nother level of confidence was born. It was like it's all it's real. High school was dynamic. You know what I'm saying? I hooped out of control. I was just like, by then I had given up baseball because the gratification of hitting a home run took too long. I had to wait for 8 other people to hit before I can get up there and knock the ball out the park. You know what I'm saying? Playing football in the 80s, and when I played, I wasn't nobody. My daddy wanted to coach, you know what I'm saying? So they ain't want to give me the ball. If you play with me, you know I should have got the ball. But when we was hooping, the ball was coming my way, and if I wanted to come my way, I could go get it. I can go get it off the rim. I can go jump higher than you, take that thing off the rim, grab it, and guarantee it go in the hole, because I'm going to damn near break the rim to get it in there. This is the part where I tell you about how I fell in love with basketball. Like, really deeply fell in love. Like, it became my whole world. I have a part where I talk about in 91, the summer of 91, when I first got a goal. I ain't had no concrete, so everything had to be layups. I didn't learn how to dribble. I just had to stand still and shoot or take layups because I ain't had no concrete in the back. But hooping took over my life. Hooping became the identity of Goob. Hooping is how Goob became Goob. Shout out to Julian Forehand. He the one who started this Goob thing. Goob. He hit me with a pass. I catch that bit. Bang! He'd be like, Goob. Then he started calling me Goob. Then people started calling me Goob. And I'm just like, my name Goob. I'm Goob. When I go hoop, I'm Goob. Why am I Goob? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But I'm Goob. And it's fitting. You know what I'm saying? It's fitting. It just worked. It just jumped right in there. So, you know what I'm saying? But Goob is who I became. You know what I'm saying? And even, like, as I got older, people's like, Goob? Like a goob? Like, I don't know what the fuck you talk about as a goob, but this is the goob that you will now use to define the word goob. I don't give a fuck what you used to call it prior to this. So, high school was amazing. Amazing friends. Circling back to late elementary school, that 91 summer, met my best friends in the world, Save and Clem. From now to every day till I left to go to Tally, which we'll get to, we was together. Everything I'm talking about, they was there. Rocking, getting it in. So high school, we rolling, you know what I'm saying? We DDC. I'll let one of them come on and tell you what that means. But we was DDC, you know what I'm saying? We doing it. We going to your school, we coming through, and we wrecking your gym. We going to your park, we getting in the Cutlass, we finding the game, and we wrecking your gym. We going to David Park, whoever come out there, we wrecking you. We going to Beverly Park, we wrecking you. We going somewhere in Opelika, we wrecking you. We going somewhere in Lauderdale, we wrecking you. We going to try to tear your goal down. That's really the purpose of the whole situation to be there. It's to tear your goal down. But this is what Goob was initially birthed as, this physical specimen who was here to dominate, who wouldn't take no shit from nobody, who wasn't here about to play nan second, about nothing. This hand here was the hand of justice. When it came out, it was me telling you that everything before that is over. So, you know, I keep this hand as calm as possible nowadays. I use it simply for speaking. It ain't really the hand of justice no more. I just lay down justice when necessary. 1998, I graduate high school. I'm off to Tallahassee, Florida, to experience Florida A&M University, Agricultural and Mechanical University. Had no clue what I was doing there when I got there. It was just like that was next. Middle school, high school, college. You just knew you was going. You know what I'm saying? What you was going to do there. Didn't really know, but I had an idea, you know what I'm saying? Because they say you had to choose a major. And because I had been training and doing all of this stuff, trying to be this athlete, or not trying to be this athlete, being this athlete, you get injuries. And I had to go through physical therapy. And the dude who put me through physical therapy, a guy named Lee, shout out to Lee, really influenced me to think like, yo, I can do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Help people get back in the game, get stronger. The story of how I wrecked that knee will be when we talk to Johnny Robinson. You know what I'm saying? Not talk to him, we can't. But when we talk to somebody about Johnny Robinson in field day, because I was training for field day, trying to break the high jump record. Just break it. You know what I'm saying? Just totally smash that thing. So on mentality, I get that 98, and now Goob is being exposed to an even bigger pond. Now I'm in the ocean. You know what I'm saying? This ocean in the middle, pretty much in the middle of a desert, of a country desert. But an ocean nonetheless. I'm not going to go into deep details about Tally on this part, because that's part of what this part is going to be about. It's going to be segments of those days, reminiscing from 98 till I left in 05. But from 98 to 05, I was a Tally. I met some of the best friends that I have in my life. Young Tone, who was on episode 2. Ant, who was on episode 3. I met them in Tally. You know what I'm saying? And that is where young Goob, the God, was birthed. So I get to Tally 98, and I got this mind that I've been developing for a few years, probably a couple years, because I had a setback back in my senior year that took that physicality away from me. I simply broke my wrist, navicular bone. Gets the least amount of blood in your body, that and a couple of bones in your foot. So it's supposed to heal slow. They told me I was going to be out for the season. I told them I wasn't going to cast up unless that thing was unmovable. Played the first 3 games, and it became unmovable. Cast it up. The whole time, I'm thinking, I'm going to get this thing right before it come out the cast. You know what I'm saying? They telling me it's going to come out chalky white, thin, looking like a baby lamb. I can't have that. I got some playoffs to make, you know what I'm saying? Get the cast off. Well, even before I get the cast off, while the cast is on, I realize that I have to identify myself as something other than the physicality of Goob. I can't go hoop. I can't go dominate a situation physically. I gotta have more than that. I gotta diversify my portfolio that is I. So in that moment, being influenced by people like Erykah Badu, being influenced by Andre 3000, being influenced by hip hop as a whole, decided that I'm finna get smart on their ass. I'm finna purposely gain knowledge like I gain physicality. Just like I got good at hooping, just like I got good at baseball, and just like I got good at playing football and everything else, I decided to get good at being smart. So as a junior going into a senior and going into college, I had that momentum of, nigga, I'm gonna be like, I'm smart, nigga. You know what I'm saying? I'm knowledgeable, or becoming knowledgeable. I ain't gonna be no sucker MC to be, you know what I'm saying, just slept on. But when you get to Tally, it's hard to keep that stuff going, you know what I'm saying? It's a party all the time, you know? It's very difficult to focus on trying to fine-tune the God when it's Tally in 98, 99. You know what I'm saying? Before the internet was popping. We was just going to get lyrics on the internet. You know, we weren't Googling worth a damn. We was horrible. So with a little bit of getting that out your system and then getting back to it, the God started to be more to God. The God started to come through, started to learn knowledge of self. Started to learn about more than what they was telling me about in them books and all of them schools that I have been going to that I mentioned before. Started learning a little bit more than what that church was telling me that I was telling you about before. Started to cultivate an identity that was bigger than the little marginalized identity that they tried to give to me. And when I say they, no person in particular, just the world. So in Tally, thanks to people like Bob, thanks to people like my dog Kof, thanks to people like my dog Mac, building, started to find out, you know what I'm saying? It's a bigger world than even the world that you thought was big. It's a bigger story, even bigger than the story that you thought was big. So Young Goob the God became that, the generator, the operator, and the destroyer. Shout out to C. Freeman L. for the codex and script that's on that. That's all it is. The generator, the operator, and the destroyer. The builder, the person who keep it going, and the person who tear it down when it's time to tear it down. The controller. Our self-law and master. That's what we rule by. And that's what Young Goob the God is. You know what I'm saying? And that was cultivated in Tally. That as well as a lot of other things. And like I say, I'm not going to go too deep into Tally Chronicles because we're going to save that for the pod. Now, let's talk a little bit about the pod. Because I talked about earlier, athletics, hip-hop, all of this, Tally, this is what the pod is going to be about. We're going to be talking about sports. We're going to be talking about basketball. I'm a Heat fan. I'm a Heat fanatic. I'm not a fanatic. I'm a Heat lifer. You know what I'm saying? I'm in this Heat nation. We're going to be talking about the Heat. We've had a couple of episodes, a couple segments on the Heat already as I develop and groom what this thing is going to be about. We're going to be talking hip-hop, especially the era of hip-hop that groomed me. Late 80s, 90s, early 2000s. We're going to chop it up about what's going on up in the culture as it relates to us and me now, being a 41-year-old adult in 2021 who was, you know what I'm saying, who was just the other day 19. You know what I'm saying? So, pod is going to touch on a few things. We're going to eventually find our lane, but hey, for now, we just going to keep it funky. You know what I'm saying? We're going to keep pouring up some Ray. Thank you for watching or listening wherever you're receiving your content. Make sure you like, subscribe, rate, and review. I am Young Goob the God. This is the Rancher's Kid Podcast. Thank you for watching. And like Big Rube say, right on to the real and deaf to the fakers. Peace out. Hey yo. Hey yo.